Echoes tend to occur in large open spaces, but a month ago, in my tiny bedroom, my echoes went throughout the whole room. I couldn't believe it, and how a room of such small size can emit an echo is beyond me. I tried turning the light on, but the bulb had gone out. I couldn't be bothered getting another one, as I was having a lazy month. I would say random words like, "Hello," and it would echo through the tiny bedroom. The bedroom hardly has any space at all, due to the bed and cupboard. It was weird, but I liked it. I would say more weird words, and my echoes would travel around the bedroom. I've also been receiving weird kinds of therapy to help me adjust to everyday reality. And my therapist would always say things like, "Use your imagination and pretend that you are not on fire." And I would reply in confusion, But I'm not on fire?" Then my therapist would say, "Fantastic! You're using your imagination." And I would reply, "No, you don't understand. I was never on fire in the first place." And my therapist would be super pleased for really giving the imagination exercise when I wasn't. Then, for a moment, I pondered whether I was on fire, and after the therapy session, I felt okay. I don't really know what my therapist was trying to do, but I like him anyway. When I shouted out another word in the small room, the word that I had shouted echoed throughout the room. I was thoroughly taken aback by this, but I was also loving it at the same time. How can such a small room filled with stuff have an echo? And it goes against physics. Whenever I went to my therapist, he would keep telling me to imagine that I wasn't on fire. I then had the same old argument with him, and it was always the same. It started to get to me, to imagine that I wasn't on fire, even though I was never on fire in the first place. I had to prove to my therapist that I wasn't on fire. So I burned down my house, and I was safely outside. I told the firefighters that this was to prove that I wasn't on fire to my therapist. I also told them that I lived on my own. When the firefighters found a burnt body in the tiny room, I realized that it wasn't echoes, but a man who was secretly living there and making it sound like an echo.
I didn't intend to become a hoarder. One day, I just woke up and my house was full. Junk mail, clothes, trash. They all stacked up little by little. And by the time I realized I had a problem, it was already too late. I wasn't like some of those people you see on TV. I wasn't compelled to keep all these things. I was just too depressed to clean up after myself. and got in too deep. I was fine with that. I had little paths through my house where I could walk without disturbing the trash, and if I just ignored it, then I could pretend it wasn't even there. But lately, something has been happening that I cannot ignore. At night, when I'm lying down in bed, I can't help but feel the dark is moving. When I'm lying down, I look up into the dark, and it's almost like there are small waves rippling through the room. But by the time I get up and turn on the lights, everything is normal. At first I thought maybe there was a gas leak. Like maybe I'm huffing fumes and my vision's getting blurry. Or maybe some of the garbage in my room started rotting and releasing spores which were making me loopy. I finally figured it out when I decided to get an app from my phone. I was able to hook up a system where I could turn on the lights to my room without having to get up and flip the switch. So I went to bed and I waited. Sure enough, before too long, the dark was moving. I slowly pulled out my phone, brought up the app, and turned on the lights. Only something funny happened. The lights turned on, but my room was still dark. Then I saw a flutter, and I understood what I was looking at. Roaches. Millions of them. Enough to turn the walls and ceiling of my room black. Years of trash piling up had led to an infestation. It took them a moment, but they scattered, hiding under any piece of trash they could find. In a moment, my room looked normal, but I knew they were there. I immediately went out to the closest Walmart that was open and purchased as many bug bombs as I could. The trash was one thing, but I drew the line at bugs. In my room, I laid out some old newspaper and set down the bug bombs. I stopped when I heard a fluttering behind me. There, on the wall, the roaches had arranged themselves, spelling out the word "stop." What the fuck? I reached to pull the release on the bug bombs, but they shifted and now spelled "final warning." I pulled the release and ran to the door, but it slammed shut, being pushed by a mass of roaches. The fumes were immediately nauseating. As I choked, the roaches shifted one last time and spelled out, "Die." After a long and tired day, I left my window open to feel the nice summer air. I know it sounds weird, but I enjoyed the warmth on my skin rather than the cold while going to sleep. Opposite of my father, who wanted our thermostat at freezing temperatures for him to slumber. One of the many things in the house he had control over.
Don't touch the thermostat.
He was one of those types of dads. But while most fathers would playfully kid around about those types of rules, he did not. Any type of stepping out of line my father would notice from me or my mother, he would make us pay for it severely, using all forms of abuse.
Turn the thermostat down.
My father texted me in the middle of the night as I almost drifted to sleep. My PTSD of not being punctual, of his requests and paying dearly for it kicked in as I jerked out of bed. I began following his orders and made my way downstairs. But I stopped when I received another text message from my father.
Turn the thermostat down right now, James. I mean it.
He texted again. He was angry. I remember what this would mean. I stared at the thermostat, knowing the punishment that would await for me if I didn't follow his command. But the fear was slowly leaving me.
James, turn the damn thermostat down. It's burning up.
He sent this message in all caps. I stood staring at the thermostat, not making a move. In my head, I was finally standing up to him, waiting. I heard footsteps come from upstairs now, from his bedroom. Tears began unknowingly filling my eyes.
James,
he sent again. The footsteps made its way downstairs, revealing to be my mother. She stared at me, almost reading my face.
James, please, it's hot. I'm burning up.
He texted. I looked over at the obituary my mother had left on the nightstand from earlier today. My father's face on the cover. That's right, old man. Burn in hell. I sent back.